Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 1090 Jake, man. I'm rocking with Charlie, y'all rocking with me. And for this video, we're going to be diving into the details and facts behind the Ynw double murder case. And we're going to be speaking on how his co-defendant, Ynw Portland, was able to make bond and be released. Ynw Melly, a Florida rapper who exploded into the rap scene with his 2017 breakout hit, Murder on My Mind. One of the most demonic melodies detailing a murder fantasy that's now gained over 390 million views on YouTube and double platinum status. But it would be the double murder Melly would later be charged with that would give a whole new vivid and graphic experience when listening to his lyrics. Jamel Demons was no stranger to law enforcement or firearms. He was 16 years old when he was arrested in 2015 for shooting at a group of students near Vero Beach High. He was convicted of aggravated battery, discharging a firearm in public, and 2 counts of aggravated assault, serving several months. Reaching superstar status, he later be arrested in 2018, charged with possession of a weapon or ammunition by a convicted felon, and possession of marijuana and drug paraphernalia. January 3rd, 2019, he'd again be arrested for possession of marijuana, and the following month, a double murder would shock the rap community. Ynw, short for Young World, was made up of 4 childhood friends: Melly, Portland, Juvie, and Sack Chaser. Featured on the Ynw Melly documentary, they got to witness his rise to fame and experience his early success. Their close relationships only further confused everyone when both Melly and Portland were indicted for their murders. On October 16th, 2018 at 4:35 a.m., Cortland Henry, also known as Ynw Portland, entered the emergency room at Memorial Miramar, requesting help for the 2 unresponsive passengers in his vehicle. Medical staff removed Anthony Williams, also known as Ynw Sack Chaser, from the front passenger seat with gunshot wounds to his head and torso. The right rear passenger, Christopher Thomas, also known as Ynw Juvie, was shot several times in the back and head. Portland was questioned, saying he left a recording studio in Fort Lauderdale with the 2 victims in his vehicle. Exiting the highway and passing 160th Ave, a vehicle pulled up next to his and started firing. He lowered his body to avoid being shot, and when the gunfire stopped, he sat up to see both friends were hit. Driving immediately to the nearest hospital, a detective later drove Portland to the exact location of the shooting, police shutting down the area in an attempt to obtain evidence. After close examination, nothing was found. Portland's hands were tested for gunshot residue, reporting negative. Detectives made contact with Dontavius Wither at the last known address of the victims. He said he was at a recording studio with Melly, Portland, Sack Chaser, and Juvie, along with a few others, leaving in 2 separate vehicles, Melly being in the vehicle with them. Withers denied knowing the location of Melly, which was discovered to be a lie, as he had just left Fredo Bang's house where Melly was at. Detectives arrived at the Fort Lauderdale recording studio, speaking with the manager, who confirmed Melly, Portland, and the victims were all present. Providing access to the security cameras, a gray Jeep was seen leaving the studio with Portland driving, Melly in the rear left, Sack Chaser in the front right, and Juvie in the rear back. Melly was seen carrying a light brown satchel that appeared to be weighed down, hanging off the left side of his body. When Juvie left the studio, he was carrying a black satchel that also appeared to be weighing down. A search warrant was issued for the vehicle that was shot up. The Jeep was a rental. 3 bullet holes on the right front passenger door and 5 on the back, with 1 bullet hole in the trunk door. The interior was damaged from the bullets, and a significant amount of blood was found on the right side and middle of the vehicle. But 140 caliber shell casing was found on the rear left side inside of a plastic bag on the floorboard. This was the seat Ynw Melly occupied on video leaving the studio. That single shell casing contradicting the statements given by Ynw Portland about a drive-by shooting. Investigators believe this support the evidence that the victims were shot inside of the vehicle, and the bullet holes to the exterior were staged in an effort to misdirect the investigation. Investigators once again made contact with Dontavius Withers, confronting him with the video evidence. He changed his story, saying originally Melly was in the Jeep, later getting into his Mitsubishi, stating he was contacted on Snapchat to pull over on the highway and meet up. With cell phone search warrants obtained for Melly, Juvie, Sack Chaser, and Withers, police were able to use cell phone mapping and track their travel locations. That evidence contradicting statements made by Bortland, as it shows a different path traveled, also failing to show Melly meet up with Withers. The original crime scene was deemed a false location, meaning Bortland was attempting to hide incriminating truth pertaining to the homicide of Sack Chaser and Juvie. Cell phone records showing Melly and Sack Chaser moving in the same area, Melly's location then separating from Sack Chaser's. Based on the travel pattern and times, it was determined Bortland drove around for a period of time with the dead bodies in the vehicle prior to going to the hospital. Surveillance video from the hospital showed Bortland had also changed his clothes. When leaving the studio, he was wearing a black tee, but at the hospital, a black hoodie. The hoodie was examined and no forensic evidence was noted, but the t-shirt had a blood-stained pattern on the front and back. On November 11th, 2018, a canine unit was requested in assisting the search for the crime scene identified by phone records. On the side of the road, the canine showed reaction, and closer examination revealed a total of 8 .40 caliber shell casings, matching the Blazer Smith & Wesson shell casing found inside of the vehicle. 2 different types of glass shards were also found, one matching the clear front right window, one matching the tinted back right window. Upon closer examination, it was revealed that the vehicle was stopped. A weapon or weapons were fired into the vehicle. Then the vehicle made a U-turn, fleeing the area. When examining the flight path of the bullets entering the vehicle, one of the bullets entered and struck the opposite side in a manner inconsistent with a moving vehicle. November 5th, 2018. An autopsy report for Sack Chaser stated the wound path in his neck was from back to front, left to right, and upward. Another gunshot wound to the right shoulder and another to the chest. The gunshot wound to the back of his head obviously had entered from his rear left. January 11th, 2019. The medical examination office confirmed that the gunshot entry wound on Juvie's face was an intermediate wound. There was a 3 centimeter stippling pattern around the entry wound. An intermediate wound by definition would indicate a distance of 3 inches to 3 feet between the victim and the weapon. But due to the 3 centimeter stippling, the weapon must have been very close when fired into his face. The gunshot wounds to Juvie's back were fired after he was shot in the head, slumped and leaning to the left. Evidence shows both headshots came from the rear left passenger side, traveling through their heads left to right. A search warrant for Ynw Melly's Snapchat revealed communication with his girlfriend 14 days after the murder. He stated, "This saved my life. He coming everywhere with me. Cause if them crackers come and grab him, it's my fault. You forgot? I keep Bortland with me cause at the end of the day, he did one of the realest shit in my life." These statements investigators found interesting as they referenced the loyalty and association between Melly and Bortland. Investigators believe they suggest Bortland was loyal by driving the bodies and dealing with law enforcement, and Melly was the shooter. December 4th, 2018, Ynw Melly dropped a 21-minute documentary on YouTube in which he glorified his use and possession of firearms, stating he's carried a gun since the 4th grade. At the end of the documentary, the final screen displaying the words, "4 days after the completion of this film, Ynw Melly and his friends were targets of a drive-by shooting in Miami, Florida." Investigators found this significant because it placed Ynw Melly at the scene of the crime. In an interview with the mother and girlfriend of Melly, both stated that after the shooting, Melly FaceTimed them saying he was a victim of a drive-by shooting and his 2 friends were killed, yet again placing him at the scene of the crime. The mother of Melly's girlfriend also stated when she witnessed the FaceTime call, Melly appeared to be outside hiding, waiting to be picked up. The call is consistent with Melly's phone records, who had his phone on him before, during, and after the killings. All of this information was used to find probable cause for a warrant, charging Ynw Melly with 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder, a capital crime punishable by death. Ynw Bortland charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of accessory after the fact. February 13th, 2019, Melly turned himself in to the Broward County Jail a day after Bortland was arrested in Texas and extradited to Broward County. With many on the edge of their seats after hearing the two allegedly killed their two friends, I'm sure many fans' stomachs dropped after hearing the state is seeking the death penalty against 19-year-old Melly. Indian River sheriffs made headlines suspecting Melly and Bortland may have been the shooters responsible for the death of an off-duty deputy in Melly's hometown. A shooting ignited when someone in the group threw a bottle at a passing car. The driver began firing. The two rappers allegedly standing in a group returned fire when the deputy, who was 170 feet away, was struck by a stray bullet. Witnesses came forward saying there was as many as 3 shooters in the group, but the case remains unsolved. With the pandemic spreading across the U.S., the jails and prisons were equally affected and reportedly less treated. Melly testing positive for the coronavirus and requesting an emergency release due to health concerns, which was denied. Transcripts from Bortland's hearing gave even more detailed information, stating the cell phone evidence is the most important in this case. Melly and Sack Chaser had the same exact phones, iPhone 10s bought by Melly under T-Mobile's network. T-Mobile has a feature that shows the environment the phone is in, telling investigators exactly when Melly got out of the car to stage the shooting because the phone went from mobile the entire drive to stationary at the scene of the crime. Sack Chaser was already dead at this time, as his phone remained on mobile, meaning he stayed in the vehicle until he was removed from the vehicle at the hospital. Melly's phone went back to mobile, then stationary yet again when he makes the call to his girlfriend. Another thing about T-Mobile, true data can show if the phone is inside, outside, moving, stationary, and the distance from a cell phone tower, showing 300 to 400 yards from the tower, the exact location of the crime scene from Melly's phone. Melly is then once again mobile before being dropped off and picked up by Frederick Givens, known as the rapper Fredo Bang, disposing the firearms and then picking them up later in the day. Every single location and direction given away from the cell phone data. The blood inside of the car pooling in the middle as the two victims were slumped, shot in the back and side of the head, and shot repeatedly, already leaning over. Video of Melly found in a cell phone admitted to shooting 2 individuals in the head, stating, "There's no regrets for the shit I did for that to die." Putting a pen to his head in the shape of a gun, pulling the trigger and throwing up a blood gang sign saying, "Both of them never say when." There was a recorded phone call from a Texas jail between Bortland and Melly. "Make sure you're straight, dude. Make sure you're straight." "What you mean?" "I'm talking about make sure you ain't got no warrant." "Like, I don't." Alright. I just want to know because I don't even know. Somebody, yeah, but they can't. You can't talk about that shit. The conversation then ending between them. Bortland's lawyer defending that nothing is being said other than his presence. Nothing is incriminating about asking if Melly has a warrant under the circumstances of the case and Bortland's arrest. The judge found the state did not provide enough evidence to keep Bortland incarcerated without bail. The gunshot residue test making it clear the defendant never fired a weapon. While circumstantial evidence is admissible and worthy of consideration, there is just no evidence in any way suggesting Bortland was involved in the alleged murders. While the state may have an arguable accessory after the fact claim due to Bortland driving the victims to the hospital, that does not translate to a felony or premeditated murder. Based on that, Bortland's bond was set at $180,000. Bortland was released on bond May 23rd, 2020 to a Miami residence while he and Ynw Melly await trial. So that right there ends any rumors that Bortland was cooperating in any sort of way to get released on bond. And in my opinion, I feel like they're gonna beat the case. The reason I say that, aside from the cell phones placing them there, there's no evidence saying that beyond a reasonable doubt, Melly pulled the trigger and killed them. There just isn't any. You could come up with any excuse. The killer was already there. The killer got into the car, etc., etc. They went and met somebody. It's endless. But beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't feel that there's evidence that would solidify a conviction for 2 premeditated murders for Ynw Melly. And because of that, I don't feel Bortland is gonna get convicted on the accessory to murder charges. Either way, Melly's facing death, Bortland is facing life, because when you're an accessory to the fact of a first-degree felony, you're gonna be facing the same amount of time. It's a crazy case. We're just gonna have to see how it plays out. It's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with y'all rocking with me. Till next time.